Greetings, YouTube. I've been having a conversation with Zeke of, what's his name? I apologize. Zeke of LP 101 concerning the nature of evil player characters. And I don't want them in D&D. In systems that have alignments, I want heroes. So I want neutral and good characters. I've had personal experience with people playing evil characters in such games, and it's always turned out bad. Always. It has made the game suck. So I just simply don't allow them. I want heroes. If I were in the mood for tortured souls that wanted to, look at the world through the eyes of someone that is morally ambiguous or immoral, I might play Masquerade, one of the World of Darkness games, something like that. And since I've never played one of those, that should give you an indication that I have no real interest in any of that style of play. I'm not looking for party conflict to add spice to the game either. I want cooperation. I want teams of people that function together. When I've run games that didn't have alignment systems, there have been people who have played in a more amoral fashion, and when they crossed the line and broke the law, there were ramifications. Not magic ramifications, I didn't just punish them, but real ramifications, such as a person that stole a pistol off of the dead body of a cop, and someone was eventually able to trace it back to them, and they went to prison for it after they were tried and found guilty. So that kind of a thing. And that took their player character out of the game because of the actions they committed within the game. But Zeke brings up a point that I find interesting. For Zeke, there is a difference between an evil player character and a villain. And in my mind, there isn't. If you are an evil player character, you are a villain. If you are evil, you cannot end up being a hero. You may do ancillary actions that are heroic, but a hero is more than actions. A hero is also about their intent. If your intent is to commit evil, selfish acts, and you just happen to incidentally commit heroic things in the process, you're not a hero. You're an evil person that has accidentally done something that was good. Whereas a good person is out there to do good and can occasionally commit evil in the process because they're short-sighted. That is interesting. A person whose intent is good and ends up committing an evil act can then go out for redemption. Now, one of the points he brought up in our conversation was Darth Vader. He felt that Darth Vader was an example of someone that was evil that ended up being heroic. And it is my opinion that Darth Vader was evil and only ended up being heroic after redemption, after he saw the error of his ways and changed his intent. His intent was no longer to commit evil, his intent was to commit good and protect the person that he realized now existed, and he had to show his love for this person, and he did it by giving up his life. So for me, there's a major difference between a villain and a hero. They are not the same, and they cannot be the same. A villain who does heroic things is still a villain, or a player character who occasionally does evil things is still a hero who has the option of redemption. Now, if they don't choose redemption, if they continue to commit evil acts in the pursuit of good, they're going to get their alignment shifted towards neutral and then evil. Because your actions do count if they run completely counter to your intent. Now, in theory, an evil person that continues to commit heroic acts over time should have their alignment shifted in the other direction. If they consistently and endlessly commit heroic acts, they never do anything else, even though their intent is to commit evil, it would probably be somewhat comedic. Eventually, their alignment would shift towards neutrality and then good. And again, we're talking about systems that have alignment. I realize that many games don't, and that's fine. We're not discussing that. In those games, things are much more complicated, and it comes down to actions and not intent. Alignment is very much about your personal worldview, and not necessarily purely your actions. Which is why, for example, in games that have ubiquitous detect evil spells, you don't just throw someone in prison for being evil. You have to, for a good person to be moral, they have to wait until the person does something that is evil. So you have to have the linking of intent and action. And that's the main point, I think, for me, that I cannot imagine an evil player character being anything but a villain. If they continue to do heroic things, they would eventually cease to be an evil player character. So they would not continue to be that. They would change to become something else, become a neutral player character. He brought up the idea that a selfish, egotistical individual would be chaotic evil, and in my opinion that's chaotic neutral. Someone that doesn't commit evil acts but is incredibly self-centered and is only concerned about their own well-being, to me, is the definition of chaotic neutral. They're not doing evil, they're not doing good, they're doing selfish things, and so you end up with a person that doesn't care about anything but themselves, even though they may have friends, because again, the friends are a benefit to them, not just as a tool to be used, but because they need the emotional support of fellow beings as well. So I feel that chaotic neutral is a better description of a selfish, self-centered individual than is chaotic evil. I'm not saying a chaotic evil couldn't also be that, but I think that chaotic neutral is a better description of that. So I'm asking people out there, have you ever encountered evil player characters in a campaign that didn't disrupt it? That they were able to play the character to the alignment and yet still have them function within the overall party? Have you ever run in situations like I have, where an evil player character really mucked up one's game to the point where you just didn't want to play the campaign any longer? I've encountered that myself. So my personal experience with people playing evil player characters has been 100% bad. So there you have why I don't want them in my games, and why I want heroes. I don't want tortured souls. The tortured souls would fall into the category of good people that do evil actions without intention, or without realizing their actions could be construed as evil, and then having to do some form of redemption. And for me, redemption back to a good alignment is a heroic thing, whereas being evil and just doing ancillary heroic things is not. That's not a hero to me. It's never been a hero to me. That falls under the category of a broken clock is right twice a day. Just because something doesn't work and yet it occasionally is useful doesn't mean it's useful. Doesn't mean it's always functioning properly. So I'm interested in hearing what you have to say, and I will send this link to Zeke and tell him that I have expanded our conversation into a full-blown video. So in some levels, congratulations, Zeke.